Well, when an adult male is chasing a female with intent to commit rape, I shoot the bastard. That's my policy.
Intent? How did you establish that?
Well, a naked man is chasing a woman through an alley with a butcher knife and a heart on. I figure he isn't out collecting for the Red Cross.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Room Went Dark, the true crime and film, where we discuss films, TV and documentaries, all based on real events. I'm your host Lorraine, and this week I'm joined by Amalie. Hello, Amalie.
Hello, Lorraine.
One day I'll just say hi, Amalie, like normal, and they'll be like, "Oh, they've fallen out."
I think it's a thing now. Yeah, good. Yeah, enjoying the very, very hot weather. Not.
Yeah, me and Amalie don't like it, so we're grumpy together.
I think we complained about this on the last podcast.
I know. I was so annoyed this weekend because it was meant to be from Friday. It was meant to get colder, and it hasn't. I'm like, what? What's going on? You promised me grey skies.
Yeah. I want grey. Damn it. Yeah, I mean, it kind of looked like it was going to be a cooler day this morning, and I thought it was going to rain and just, cool things down. And then this afternoon, it's just like baking again. And the sky's blue. I'm so unappreciative. Oh, the sky's blue, gross. I'm just a vampire. I think that's what it is. I just like to live at home and
Same.
hiss at the sun from inside my dark, dingy house. No, it's not dark. It's a very airy lighthouse, unfortunately. But
speaking about dark and dingy,
yes,
we're going to discuss one of my all-time favorite films. Like, it's definitely up there in my top 10. And obviously, it's not based necessarily on true events, but they kind of got inspired by the serial killer, Zodiac Killer, and a police officer called David. How'd you say his surname? Toschi. I was saying Tushi, so I was saying it wrong. And that is the 1971 film starring Clint Eastwood, directed by Don Siegel, called Dirty Harry. And this film is part of a few other films. You've got Magnum Force, which came in 73, The Enforcer 76, and Sudden Impact in 83. And then Deadpool, not Ryan Reynolds, the one in 88. And Clint Eastwood would appear as Harry Callahan in all these films. And Clint Eastwood happens to turn 96 today on the day of recording. And it stars also Andrew Robinson, who is the murderer, Scorpio, known as Scorpio. And he is terrorizing the streets of San Francisco. And Harry is assigned to the case. He's kind of a bit unorthodox when it comes to catching the killers, but that is his goal. And it's basically, for me, it's just a story of how politics gets in the way of when stuff is going down. So you'd seen this before, hadn't you?
But a long time ago. It's terrible to say, but I think I have only really watched Dirty Harry once.
Oh, really?
And it probably was a long time ago.
Oh, right.
And I didn't remember most of it when I rewatched it. But I rewatched it with such glee that I actually didn't make any notes. Given that I'm ADHD, this could be a really interesting recording.
So you liked
as we talk about it, I'll remember bits. But if you were to ask me directly now what I thought of it and how it was, I'd be like,
there was someone in it.
There was someone in it, and there was definitely a villain, and there was a shooting in a leg. Was it? No, it was a stabbing, wasn't it?
The stabbing, yeah. But yeah, the Zodiac Killer is someone, it's kind of like the Jack the Ripper thing, because it's never been solved. He killed at least 5 people back in the 60s, 68, 69 in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's either dead or very old, if he was doing it at that time. And there was this police officer, David Toshki, who, he was a police officer in the early 50s to the late 80s, and he would hunt the Zodiac Killer, and obviously he was never being caught. So it's one of those mysteries that people always wonder who. But that was basically what got this film going. So yeah, tell me what you thought. Give me your thoughts on it.
I really enjoyed it. But it just as just a film to watch, and it's the first one of the ones that we've watched for the podcast where, like I said, I just didn't take notes because I was
Yeah.
just really quite fully invested in just
That's
watching
good
it.
though. That's a good sign.
Yeah, I just sort of watched it through. And I think I mean Clint Eastwood doing his best,
Thing.
doing his the ultimate Clint Eastwood as ever. It's always quite enjoyable watching him on screen anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I think yeah, and we'll probably get onto it, but I think the kind of like the politics around the lack of support that he had from his policing and
Boss and stuff.
yeah, from his
Yeah.
boss and things like that. And you just yeah, sounds about right. um, um, and yeah, and just the ways that this killer basically gives him the runaround
Oh yeah.
across the
Literally
suburb.
at times.
Yeah, quite literally. And they're not giving him the backup that he needs, and they just kind of expect him to go and do the dirty, essentially, don't they? I mean, that's exactly why he's called it Harry, because it's sort of like
Yeah.
it's not because he's necessarily, I mean, he's a little bit, well, he is kind of unconformist in a sense, like as long as he gets the bad guy, he gets the bad guy, but it's because he's not supported by the system that he's in, I think, that he's sort of expected to kind of, yeah, have results without necessarily having
Support.
the support.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I it's a weird one because um he's the only person you feel in this film and his partner to an extent, but he's the only person you feel in this film that actually only cares about the victims. Like his goal is to get the victims at, get, make sure people aren't hurt or, get the person if they've been killed and stuff. Um, but I think what I found really frustrating about it is, like you were saying, is there's a bit in it where this kind of sums it up really as when, so he's been attacked by Scorpio's killing people. There's a girl that could potentially die, already is dead, and they want a ransom, stuff like that.
yeah,
And then they all know who it is. It's the thing. They all know that he's got the guy. He finds him in that thing, in the football pitch thing,
yeah.
and he's a bit aggressive with him, and that's all they care about. And I think that's one thing about this film is all they seem to care about. It's that typical thing where a criminal seems to have more rights than a victim, and it
Yeah.
drives me insane. So
Mhm.
starting off, when he starts off, it's that typical kind of like 70s. I mean, we've got the 70s music, the 70s cars, the 70s
Yeah.
like clothes, and it's so the 70s way of how you speak to each other.
Yeah. You feel lucky, punk.
Like I personally always like that way of talking. I wish people would, into the 70s and 80s. I always think of the beginning of I think it was 84, the first Beverly Hills Cop film,
Yeah.
where the way the captain speaks to Axel, and I'm like, that's what I like. I like it when people are that direct. I'm not precious about that kind of stuff at all. And so I really enjoy that kind of back and forth. Sometimes
Yeah.
the things they're talking about aren't great, but I like direct to the point.
Yeah.
That's one thing I really like, direct to the point, and how he doesn't take any shit. And when they try and give him a partner, it's that typical kind of like, I don't need a partner, you know. And it's like
That's
this
just
kid.
rookie.
Yeah, it's this kid that's just like, what's the kid gonna do? And I'm like, you were a kid once and you were new to this. So, you kind of get a clear understanding of who he is
Mm.
pretty, pretty early on,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah, quite early on, he's sort of I mean, he's a lone wolf, isn't he?
Mm,
That's the thing. And I think a lot of movies that show detectives, or even um, any movies or I want to say box sets, series, you know what I mean,
yeah.
on TV, like shows.
Box sets, you're showing your age now.
I know, yeah, I know. I was trying to avoid saying it, but I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to say it because I can't think of what the other word is.
VHS.
On VHS, when we used to have records and cassette tapes. Um, yeah. So in like series, whenever there's a detective, there's always, some he's always sort of down on his luck, or there's some sort of
Mm.
substance use issue, or like, he's either having trouble with family at home or doesn't have any family because
Yeah.
the system has overworked him so much that he
Yeah.
just doesn't have time for a relationship. Um, and I guess that, yeah, it doesn't fail on that on that consensus either, because he's sort of just there's kind of quite sort of, I wouldn't say cocky, but just sort of I just, he's just like, I don't need this rookie to work with. Is that what you're going to give me? Yeah, great, thanks, kind of thing. He's just sort of a bit like, yeah,
But as well, I
you
think as well, it's that kind of thing because obviously his wife has passed away, so it is just
mm,
him. But
yeah,
it's also I think for him it's something to worry about as well. Oh, I need to keep this kid safe now. I need to just get
yeah,
out and do it. I
yeah,
don't need to be worrying about the life of this lad,
yeah. That's true.
because
Yeah,
he's new and this kid might be more by the book. He wants to impress and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
and I think it's the same old thing, like all generations do it, where you get older and you're like, oh, these young ones coming in and doing these jobs and stuff like that. You forget that you were once young yourself and stuff like that. So I think
yeah,
there's a lot of that going on. Um, but it just feels like the entire film is him fighting the powers that be.
yeah,
And he just comes out with a, like when he turns around and said, he just comes out with, so obviously you've got that great line, did you fire 6 shots or only five? And he does all that speech. And then,
yeah,
but one of the ones I really love is when he's talking to the guys and he's like, talking about basically if he's trying to, sexually assault a woman. And they go, why would you presume that? And he goes, well, if he's running down the street naked with his dick hanging out, I don't think he's collecting for the Red Cross. And I'm just
yeah.
like, exactly. But to them, they're like, why
Oh,
would you
God.
presume? There's times where, well,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
attacking her. I'm not going to be like, oh, do you mind? What are you doing? So I like how he is just straight to the point like that. And I'm going to
yeah,
stop them. I don't care about protocol and all that kind of stuff. And also, I mean, police do get a bad rap. And there are some, because of the bad ones, they make it work like anything. The bad ones make it good for everybody else, bad for everybody else. But the sad thing is, despite his attitude, he is the good guy,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
He's just trying to do a good job, isn't he, and look after the people that he's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That's
that that was my favorite line of the film, actually, about that, like all
about
running
with
down the street.
the,
Yeah, I
yeah.
chuckled so much when he said, because it's just how matter of fact he delivers
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and it is very much that sort of, at that point it, it is in this kind of like, I'm gonna sass you
Mm.
quite a bit, but in a sort of slightly angry, resentful kind of manner. It's very much a sort of like, well, here's your line that's going to shock and
Yeah.
you know set you back a bit. And at the same time, uh there's context to it, in the sense of when I work frontline, yeah.
Mm.
Sometimes you've got to make these calls. If you've got a guy running down the street with his cock hanging out, then he's probably up to no good, maybe.
But that is the perfect example because you have like this level of management, like probably in every country, but obviously I'll talk about England, where they're not qualified. So like you could
Mm,
be a psychologist or a counselor or whatever.
yeah,
And then you've got someone telling you what to do who's never done counseling, who's
yeah,
never been and I think that's the thing with this is you've got people, these politicians, these, mayors or whatever in positions of power telling somebody who's on the street in the middle of, potentially kill or be killed, who's attacking somebody.
yeah,
Well, now come on, you need to follow the rules. It's like there ain't time for the rules sometimes.
yeah.
I'm not talking police brutality. Obviously, there's a very big difference with that. But if
Sure.
a
Yeah.
person's chasing a woman down the street with his dick hanging out, there's
I
probably a problem
mean,
there,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I mean, just generally, even if there wasn't any motivation to do anything when he caught up with her, he's still chasing a woman down the street with his
Yeah,
coconut out. That's
yeah,
terrifying. Like,
exactly. Yeah, I
if it's
don't know
me, I
what
would
he would
stop and
do.
turn around and give him a little hoof
Yeah,
in the
exactly. And
balls. But yeah, it's sort of, again, there is a little bit of sort of, I don't know, like, I don't know how to sort of. not superiority, but he definitely sort of finds authority tricky, doesn't he? Sort of like,
Oh
there's
yeah.
there's an element of I can't really respect you unless you have a bit of common sense and you
But
sort
he can
of
back it up. I think
this
that's the
is it.
thing. It's
He's smart. He's a smart,
Yeah,
intelligent,
he's got the goods, and that
yeah,
makes all the difference when someone's spouting shit but can't back up the goods. But he, like you
yeah.
said, he gets results. They may not be how they want the results,
Yeah.
but and he's not been fired.
Honestly, he does sort of remind me a lot of like people that, ADHD or probably all ADHD, but like that are like smart, intelligent people, but because they don't play the game, they don't kiss ass, and they're not very
Mm,
good at like the the people pleasing and the smoothing and
mm,
the ego stroking, that you can tell that he's kind of got stuck where he is and he's
mm.
not getting the support he needs because
Don't play the game.
he's not playing the game and he's not
Yeah.
likable, but actually does a really, really good job, and he's one of the best there. And you can see how over time, I imagine the resentment's built and he's tired of the job and he just wants to be able to do a good job and you know
What is that? And what I find, because obviously the language in this isn't very PC at times.
no.
But what I find
Yeah.
interesting about him, because sometimes his language is quite racist and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, a little bit.
but he literally is like that about everyone. Like I don't think it has anything to do with him. When it comes to him, it doesn't matter because even say that he doesn't care whether you're white, black, Spanish, what Hispanic, wherever you're from. He doesn't care.
Mm. Yeah.
He's just like, I don't like any of you. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna get, but I'm gonna get the bad guys. And I mean, the language isn't great for him, but I don't think it comes necessarily from a place the way your everyday racist would, because I think if you're white, he doesn't like you. It doesn't,
He just doesn't like
he just
anybody, does
doesn't
he?
like
He's just
anybody.
bitter
And
and
he,
resentful.
yeah, and he uses, inappropriate language to everybody. So you can't even pick him out and say he's this, he's that, is the other. He just hates everybody.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. But I sort of, my assumption is that that's sort of the playing on the dead wife and
Mm,
he, it, he sort of encompasses this very kind of hard done by character who's
yeah.
just trying to survive, I guess, to some degree. Like, he obviously cares about his job and is happy getting on and just
Mm.
doing it. He just wants to like, do the job. I don't think he really, I don't know, he doesn't come across like he cares about necessarily, like you said, getting it right or playing by the rules or yeah, it's interesting. It does sort of feel like he does feel a little bit like he's above the law, doesn't he? It to
Oh
some
yeah.
degree,
And I the thing is, right, and I know some people will disagree with this, the whole vigilante thing, because he comes across like a vigilante cop rather than a cop,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And there's elements of it. So if people don't know, if you're not listening from the UK, we recently had a case in the UK where a couple of boys on two occasions raped some girls, filmed it,
Mm,
laughed, and got away with it. And it just sends out a message. So I get sometimes why people are so angry and so pissed off that
mm.
they do go above the law. People like letting criminals go and making the victim suffer, And I think that's what this film shows with Scorpio
Yeah.
is they're more interested in PR. Scorpio is such an asshole. He's like the worst kind of person. There's
Mm,
nothing about him he's just so unbelievably bad. Like even when he gets the ransom, he's making Harry run all over the place, and then he's like, "I changed my mind. I'm gonna let the girl die," and then tries to kill him
just to
and stuff like that.
slander, isn't
But
he?
then Harry stabs him. Did they check his leg when they went after the attack? No. And they're just like, and then the cop's like, "Well, I want him off the street as much as you do. You don't sound like you do.
Yeah,
You
get off the
really
street
don't."
then.
And that's what I find frustrating is I think the justice system is to this day massively flawed. There's
I'm
no
glad you
fair
went
or
there
right.
actually because it was reminding me of that particular case with the girls and
Mm,
the boys that got off and the
yeah,
comments from the judge that
yeah.
we don't want to
Mess up their lives.
yeah, mess up their lives for the future because they're young, and you're just like, but what about the girls that this has happened to? They
Exactly.
are going to have to
Exactly.
live with that for the rest of their lives, and not only that, but also then deal with the fact that they aren't going to feel safe by the judicial system that isn't that's in place to protect them.
Well, nor is anyone else. Because people will stop. I
No.
mean, women don't come forward as it is, but they're going to stop doing it more.
Well, if they're
You
not
know,
even going to protect like
no,
underage
when you've got
girls,
evidence,
then
video evidence, like they
yeah,
had
it's
evidence, they
mad,
were
isn't it?
found guilty.
Where there is shitty behavior, there does need to be consequence, and it is upsetting because when you look at this film in particular, again, it's like, and we are having that at the moment, this kind of across the board feeling where the police are kind of, I don't know, it's almost like their resources are not where they need to be. I don't know. Yeah, I think that because there's quite a lot of parallels going on at the moment. I think it's so
Mm.
tricky as well because before social media, we wouldn't have known about half of this kind of stuff. We would probably have
It
known
would have been
about
in the news
the
type thing, but
girls,
yeah.
And I think sometimes that's quite difficult because we now have so much information at our fingertips and things that we don't actually want to see, like the videos that they've put up of those. There are some things that I have scrolled previously past on social media where I've thought I didn't want to see that.
Yeah, because they put it
It's
on social
like,
media,
oh,
didn't they,
what's
with the
this? What's
girls?
this? Yeah, I mean, luckily I've never seen anything like that.
Oh
But
God, no.
but whether it's like brutality with people, human to human brutality or things like that, and you're just like, I didn't. Because you sort of innocently sort of scroll through and you sort of go, what's this video about? And then it unfolds, and you're like, fucking hell, that's really quite brutal.
But apparently, some of the comments they were called sluts and slags and stuff. The girls were terrorized because of what happened,
Yeah, afterwards,
and
yeah.
it sends a message. I would
Yeah,
like obviously them to be, and it's not. I'm not going around saying I want to beat up kids. I'm not saying that, but I think it's easy when it's not someone you know. Like I said, if it was right, like,
sure.
can you imagine those parents? They probably want to strangle those kids, you
Yeah, and
know?
those kids will likely probably get a flipping beating at some point from someone. You just
They will.
know
They
that,
will. But I
yeah.
just I just think it's such a shame that say they do end up getting a hiding from someone, right?
Mm.
That is on the justice system as well. So say
But
someone does take matters into their own hand, they're
yeah.
putting those boys in danger too. So someone might see them and then
Well, this
attack
is
them,
it. This is where I'm
you
saying
know.
that where is the consequence and the reform? Because, the parents have obviously, no offense to the parents, but well, actually, yeah, offense to the parents, because they've obviously failed in keeping them away from whatever manosphere bullshit that they've been watching. Because
Mm.
this is learned behavior. You don't learn to do these things as a child. You don't inherently do these things as a child. This is learnt behavior, and it's probably and I know the
Peer
judgment
pressure
too,
and stuff.
but like peer pressure and
Mm.
things like that. But and egging each other on, and but
Mm.
there has to be some sort of reform for those young lads to get them back on a straight and narrow path of like this is not okay, you know.
Well, at this age, you might be able to save them,
Right,
but
exactly,
maybe that's who they are as well. There's always that potential because we've looked at serial killers like Bundy, and stuff like that who
Yeah.
they've done stuff when they're younger, and I think that's. I mean, I'd love it if we could reform people and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it! I'm so sorry," like and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it type thing. But that's not the reality. Like you look at
Yeah,
someone
they
like
have to
him.
be given a chance for reform, though. You can't just assume that they are,
Well,
terrible inherently, you
Well,
know.
I disagree with that to a point because John
Yeah.
Douglas, who is the profiler, FBI profiler, he turned right. Not about. I don't. This wasn't about children.
Mm,
I feel like with children you've got more of a chance. You give it a go type thing. But
yeah.
he said that there's some people he dealt with, and people would talk about reform, and he would say, "Reform what?" He goes, "There's nothing to reform." Do you know what I mean? With some, and he
Yeah.
obviously deals with the worst of the worst. And like you look at someone like Scorpio, do you
Mm.
think he could be reformed?
Not as an adult, no. I
No,
don't
no,
think
that's what I mean.
it's
Kids,
possible, is
give
it?
it, give, like those boys should have been sent to some sort of
Yeah,
school,
I think so.
juvenile school. Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I don't think they should have been sent to an adult prison because I don't think that would have done them any good.
No, too
But I
young.
think they should have been sent to a reform school to see. But and at least as well, because if they were sent to a reform school, or if you did have a great reform system in the world, like, even with someone like him, like Scorpio, you could turn around and go, do you know what? We need to keep these guys in prison. Scorpio
Mhm.
needs to stay in prison because there's no chance of him being reformed. And at least then they've looked into it. And I know some of them do lie. Kemper, he got out by,
Well,
full of shit. But
mm,
and as a young person as well.
yeah.
Um, but these kids, they could look at these kids and then they could go, do you know what? Actually, this one, he might be all right, but this one, nah. And then they can keep an eye and all that kind of stuff. So I think
Yeah,
it's
there
not
needs to
only
be some
about now,
psychological assessment.
but they might be the type of people who think, I got away with it twice. Maybe I can get away with it again, because you hear that about serial killers where they got
Well,
away with
this,
it. So they've
yeah,
gone
this
on and
is
done it.
the issue, isn't it? Is that, they've offended now once already. They've gone
Twice.
through the adrenaline of
Mm,
being put through the court system, and they've gotten away with it. There, if there is even slightly some sort of dopamine seeking addictive behavior in that brain, there's a potential there for them to go off and go and do
mm,
it again at a later point, if they don't have the support systems in place like their family members,
mm.
because that's the other thing, is that this is the bit that I think people quite often forget about, it is the family around the
Yeah.
perpetrators.
Yeah.
Because to be those parents, I would be horrified if that was my child, you know.
But
But
not,
there
they're
are
not
there are
always are.
some, yeah, exactly. There are some parents that they're just
Not
like,
my kid.
oh,
Not my kid. Boys will
yeah,
be boys.
yeah, boys will be
Mm,
boys, and oh, but he didn't mean it. I would be seriously sitting down with my child to how did it get to this point? Right, we need
mm.
to have a really serious talk here, you know, and we're going to keep talking about it, and it's going to be many conversations until you come to come to your senses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think, looking at the way, because we were saying about how, Harry Callahan deals with things and his kind of, as I said, vigilante kind of cop approach, it would be
Yeah, yeah,
interesting to see how someone like him would deal with children doing this, because it's that thing where you're
so true.
torn,
Yeah.
because it's really hard to look at a child doing something. An adult, it's kind of straightforward.
Mm.
We spoke about how when serial killers have kids, it's almost like when they turn 18, they're fair game to blame. This type of thing.
Yeah.
And obviously these boys
Bizarre.
are going to turn 18 eventually, and
Yeah.
then they will end up in prison if they keep doing it. And
But
then
the
we'll be
problem
like,
is
well,
there'll
they've
be
got,
another person that's been attacked by that point.
yeah, yeah.
Someone
But the
else
thing
has to
is,
be.
if they get a hiding in prison when they're adults, people won't be saying anything. Well, they got what they deserved. But 2 years before, when they're 16, oh, they can't do that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, were they? I don't know why. I thought they were like 11 or something. I swear they were like
I think
really young.
15. I think one of them was young, but I think they were like 14, 15.
Right. Okay. Okay. So
Um,
they were still old enough to know
oh, 15.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's that mob mentality of getting a few people to do it as well. Like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
always
Yeah.
interested in the conversation that happened, but that's the thing. I'm like, when it's a single person, like someone like Scorpio's, kind of way, it's him on his own. He's thought about what he wants to do. I mean, he's just, this guy's insane. Like, do you know what I mean? But when
Oh,
you
it's
can
a
get,
game for him, isn't it? It's all
it
a
is.
game.
He
He just
finds it.
enjoys it.
He even the way he talks, like that. You when you're on the bus and he's like, row, row, row your boat. Like he's just, and he's trying to, like, come on, kids, what are we gonna sing? This type of thing. And while he's
Yeah.
kidnapping them, and at that stage, you don't know if he's gonna kill them or not. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's just him on his
Yeah.
own doing it. And I suppose, like, Harry, he's on his own as well. What's going on there that you can, like, how do you bring up the subject? I've always been curious about stuff like that. And I think that's one of the first questions I would ask,
Yeah.
because I'd like to learn how it comes about, and maybe what could you do something in the future, talk to kids or whatever about it to kind of,
Because I think there actually needs to be something in there for the kids or adults that, when these for kids, because it should be talked about, that for the kids that are hearing these conversations
Yeah.
or are being roped into these conversations and are thinking, I do not want to be a part of this. This doesn't seem right. How
Yeah.
do they extract themselves safely,
Mm,
and go and tell someone that can do something about it
mm,
without, necessarily getting, because that, I mean, that could be really dangerous if you're surrounded by like a group of five people and they're all plotting to murder someone, they're thinking, well, if they can do that to that person, they can do it to me if I
mm.
dob them in. So that yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's to think that I do just think the world is bonkers at the moment. I'd like to think we can evolve, but I feel like history proves that, we also regress quite well
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
It
I
seems to
think,
be that we're in one of these at the moment, and we're just
yeah.
sort of regressing back to 50 years ago or something.
When this film came out. God,
Yeah,
over 50
exactly.
years ago. Oh yeah, and I really want to get into that bit where he is captured on that football pitch. That's such a good moment. I want to speak to my lawyer. I mean, Harry in this moment, I think is pretty much, delighted at the position he is now in. And I think Scorpio is so pathetic. But I think
He sort of feels like he's got serious mental health issues for me in this film, though. Like
well,
it
there's
doesn't
definitely something wrong
feel,
there.
yeah, it doesn't
There's no
feel,
excuse.
and I don't know if that's just the way that he's portrayed in the film, but he's
Well,
quite clearly,
the
yeah.
actor got death threats after
I'm not
this film. Andrew
surprised.
Robinson, he got a hard time after this because he is,
That
you know,
baffles me sometimes, when people are seriously, and it still happens to this day where people will say stuff to actors in the street about
yeah, yeah.
you're like, it's a character. That's not how they are in real
Oh
life.
yeah,
Like,
they get. I remember
it's
like listening to some
crazy.
EastEnders people,
How
and
can
they
you
were
not separate the two?
like, how could
It's
you have an
not.
affair on such and such? Just like I didn't.
I didn't. My character
Yeah,
did, but thank you. Yeah, like it was
yeah,
so interesting. But
yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah. It's a kind of a tough one because you see all the like like there was this case in America where this guy killed his daughter's, I don't know whether she was murdered or molested, but there was some sort of horrific crime. And he
right.
killed him and he got away with it. They didn't get any jail time. And everyone was like, yeah, you did the right thing. And that's the thing. I think this film really demonstrates it's easy for people like me and you to sit down and go, well, we think this and, we get up on our fucking high horses and all this kind of shit. But,
Well, because we are all
you know,
human at the end of the day,
yeah,
and I think we do react, and particularly under that kind of fight flight response. Like you can't control necessarily what you in how you're going to respond. You can only do the best that you can in any
yeah.
given situation, and the police are incredibly well trained to
Mm,
be able to do. I mean, they go through the various different sort of training to be able to deal with members of the public who are being, violent or aggressive. But, yeah, I do just think you sort of, yeah, I imagine your emotions do get in the way a lot of the time,
mm.
and you do see that, and those are the reports that you see about police, and they've done this to this person, and I think you see it more so with America, don't you? America,
Mm.
I think but then they're also dealing with people walking around with flipping guns and knives
Yeah,
and
and
shit.
to be
Like
honest
really
with
nice
you,
here, but
like over here, we've got a big knife problem, and if
we do, yeah,
people went to try and break up something, some cops, and there was knives there, and they,
yeah,
it's not like this is what you do in this situation. Like I said, like every situation that these police officers are is walking into
yeah.
is very different. Now, there are cases where you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to go like that. Oh my God. Have you seen that case where the guy stopped the girl driving and said, I saw you holding your phone in your right
Oh
hand and she
God,
doesn't
yeah.
have a
She's
fucking,
like, you sure
and
about that?
but he wouldn't back down and he
I
took
know
her
he
to
doubled
court
down,
because
didn't
he,
he?
he
It's
did.
like
Now, situations
moron,
like that, you're like,
fucking
you've just
moron.
wasted everybody's time, taxpayer money. Or when you see, a police going over the top, like, or stopping someone simply because they're walking down the street and they're black and they stop, like, that is bullshit. Like, that's bullshit. But if they're walking down the street and somebody's being raped and they get a bit, they need to get that man off that woman, they can't be like, right, sir, I'm going to lift you off her now. And then you're going to stop what you're doing.
I don't think
Exactly.
they would do
So
that.
someone might get hurt in the scuffle.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
fine, isn't it? I mean, if there's going to be an element of someone
But once they're
getting...
down, don't keep beating. That's my thing. Is once someone's down, don't keep going, because that's one thing they always say, like in assault cases and that's what Harry did here, to be fair. He got him down and then he just held him down. Granted, it was on the wound, but
he was on the wound,
he did try and kill Harry. So, it's probably a little bit of personal thing there. But
I mean, I think I'd probably in that moment...
It's when there's like five guys on top of one guy and they're like a George Floyd situation. You're like, come on. You don't need to, like, get off him. Like, you've got him now. Just you've got him, and I think that's the thing. And I think that's what this film for me demonstrates is sometimes, you go a bit rogue, but
going rogue to get the job done.
Do you know what actually shows you that when Harry turns around and he goes, I didn't do that to him, and then like, why? He goes, because he looks too damn good. So the fact that he could have beaten him even worse than he was, because I mean, I don't know how he was alive after that beating, to be honest with you. I really don't. And then when he had a chance, he just pressed the foot down on his wound on his leg. So he held back.
Just a little bit.
He held back in my mind.
So, like, because this film is quite loosely based on the Zodiac Killer, isn't it? I mean, a lot of it actually is not the actual details of it. I mean,
it's not like, you wouldn't be like, I think people probably just get, because obviously it says Scorpio and he asks for stuff and all that kind of stuff. But it's and he, like, from obviously the Zodiac Killer never got caught, so obviously he was very careful with what he did and stuff like that. He wasn't, because this guy isn't, like, when he shows up to get the ransom, and then he takes off after he's been stabbed in the leg, and he takes off his mask to put it against the pressure. You know what I mean? It's like, he's a very disorganized, all over the shop killer. He's too, you know what I mean? He's too, like, the way he should have just taken that. He should have said to Callahan, lie down, look up, because otherwise I'll shoot you, and then run off. That's all he had to do. But he didn't. He stood around to taunt him and, had to have the last word. And, then he ended up getting himself stabbed in the leg. So he couldn't, he had a chance to get away, I know that
that'd be boring film though, wouldn't it?
But it just shows how he's just not right. Like, he's just crazy.
That's what I mean. This is why I feel like with Scorpio that he's just, there's something, they've gone for the kind of mental health twist for me, because he just doesn't, I think in a sense where you're having a serial killer who asks for ransoms, that's a premeditated, thought out, very strategic event, that it's not opportunistic, and this guy just feels, like you said, disorganized and chaotic and just a bit like just off his head, quite frankly. Like,
the bit that gets me with him thinking, I don't think he's the age he is. Like, I think he's got the mentality of like a child. One of the things that really made me think that was, at the end, before Callahan shoots him, and he's like basically telling him, don't get, because the gun's falling. And he kind of looks at him, but he looks at him like, you've just told your toddler, don't touch that. Don't touch it. And they kind of look at you as if, I'm gonna. And there's nothing you can do. And that's the thing. He kind of had that look. And when he was like saying, like, you'd think when someone was injured, when Callahan hurt him, and he was like, get me my lawyer. I'm not saying anything until you get me my lawyer. Like, you'd expect rage and kind of like, get me my lawyer. And, I'm not doing this type of thing. And he's like, I want to speak to my lawyer. You're like,
this is what I mean. It's just
it's like, very, but it's no excuse.
A whole completely different twist on it, because if he has got a learning difficulty,
I don't care.
then I'd see I don't disagree. Because if he's not corpus mentis, then because actually, in theory, he could then go to, the trial would be around him not being able to have capacity, and like, could they charge him for what he's done?
Yeah, but do you know
That's
what?
getting very confusing.
Let's say he's got a learning difficulty. He didn't have much of a learning difficulty when he was sending Callahan from pillar to post, running from telephone box to telephone box.
This is
He
what I
was
mean.
all
This
right
is
then. So yeah,
this is
that
what I mean by
argument
this film. Like
is
I
out the
enjoyed
window
it,
with that.
but it was very,
Yeah.
like pick a profile for me for
Mm.
Scorpio. Like either he's this kind of, disorganized, like, character who potentially has like some severe learning difficulty where mentally he's sort of at an age that doesn't match his actual physical age, or he's this very premeditated, organized, getting you from like phone box to phone box. And he's got him running around the entire
And he
city, and
speaks
he's
very grown up there when
right,
he's doing that,
exactly.
like,
So
who answered the phone,
that's
type of thing.
that is the one thing for me in this film where it's just sort of like pick a profile. He can't be both. That doesn't make sense
Mm.
to me. Well, I guess he could. I guess there is a potential, but I don't know. It just feels a little bit all over the place in terms of that representation, because that again, I imagine is probably far from the Zodiac Killer, and
Mm.
Zodiac Killer managed to actually, like we said, we never found out who it was. There
Yeah.
was a possible. They did say there was a possible name, wasn't it? I think it was like um Arthur Lee Allen or something, but I think he died in like 1991 or something, or in the
Mm.
90s.
Mm.
Um, but that in itself I actually find quite fascinating, that you would have a serial killer that they just never caught.
Yeah. What
And you're
happens,
like,
isn't
well,
it?
how did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, how did
No.
she manage to let this
It's well a
person get
different
away with
time
it?
though. I think the problem is with now, um, you've got, I mean, obviously, because I was watching documentaries today about kills, I think they were back in the 80s or 70s even, but they managed to catch them off DNA now.
Yeah,
Like, do you know what I mean? Um, and I think that's the thing. Back then, obviously in the 60s, it was a very different time
good
with
point. Yeah,
regards
they
to
didn't
that. And even,
have it
a
as a
time
thing.
where you didn't get, it's only what in the last 5 years really that everybody's coming out with a diagnosis of some sort. Like back when we were younger, you just
Mhm.
wouldn't get it. You were the naughty kid or you were the dumb kid or something like that, which you weren't these
Yeah.
things. You were just struggling with A, B, and C. Like, do you know what I mean? Um,
I mean, when it comes to serial killers, we all know that usually actually they're like, oh, well, they're lovely. They were really like
yeah,
nice and charming, and you know.
some of them, yeah. It's a messed up world. At the end of the day, just don't do it. Don't attack people. Just leave them alone. Go about your business. Like, do you know what I mean?
Read
It's
a
just
book,
read a book.
educate yourself.
Yeah.
Listen to
Yeah,
a
but it's
podcast, like The Room
yeah,
Went Dark.
it's it's an interesting one, but
It is, yeah.
I do I like Harry's approach to people like Scorpio. I do. I'm like, because I just don't care if you're hurt, if you're Scorpio, but know that that's actually the person. It's when they do it because they think it's them, or then I wouldn't agree with that. If he wasn't sure, then no,
Yeah, that would be fun.
definitely don't do it. Be sure. But I am not gonna shed a tear for people like Scorpio. I'm just not,
Yeah.
you know. And if people do shed a tear for them, then you might want to check the hard drives.
But
you know,
he's an interesting character, isn't he? Scorpio.
he's just not. I was just watching him, and I'm just like, you're just you're just meant like he's just nuts. I know you can't say mental anymore, can you?
Or
But
not. I
yeah, but
mean,
I would. Do you
you
know
can
what?
say what you like. It's fine.
Yeah, it's a different
Yeah.
kind of crazy, isn't it? It's like when you see people with like disorders, I don't wouldn't call them that because I don't think they are. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? If someone's
Yeah.
got bipolar or something like that or BPD, you don't go, "Oh, you don't say that because I don't think they are that. But him, he doesn't
Yeah.
he doesn't do himself any favors. He
Yeah, well,
just
it's like I said to you, I just don't know what the profile is of this particular character.
yeah
So I'm just like,
maybe he's
you're either
schizophrenic.
this like really like calculated, like strategic,
chaos.
serial
Yeah,
killer,
yeah, yeah,
or you're
yeah.
some sort of chaotic, disorganized person with a learning difficulty. I can't work it out. And I'm a bit like, I mean, but I guess there, yeah, well, unless there's an element of, yeah, like a personality disorder in there where there's changes in selves and alters and stuff. But I don't know. It's a fascinating one. But
Anyway, let's wrap this up. And then you can tell
okay.
me the thing. But yeah, let us know what you think of the film and how you feel about people getting away with shit. And you can email us at theroomwentdark@gmail.com or go over to any of our social medias. We have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as The Room Went Dark. And we will chat to you again very soon. Bye.
Bye.